Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Dominick from the Comic Book Report YouTube channel over here doing another guest review for Organicpricedbooks.com. And today I'm taking a look at a Marvel Omnibus that came out not too long ago. This is the Thunderbolts Red Omnibus. Before we dive into the overview, I do want to provide a little bit more details about the build of the book, who made it, what it collects, things like that. To that end, the issues in this volume were written primarily by Daniel Way, Charles Soule, Ben Acker, and Ben Blacker, and illustrated primarily by Steve Dillon, Phil Noto, Gabriel Hernandez, and more. The comics in this volume were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2012. The volume itself collects Thunderbolts, the 2012 series, issues 1 through 32, and Thunderbolts Annual 2013, issue 1. This is an oversized hardcover edition with glossy print paper stock, a sewn binding, and a total of 744 pages. Incidentally enough, this was my first major exposure to the Thunderbolts. I've read some of the initial issues of the first Thunderbolt series. After that, I've really only read a couple Thunderbolt issues that tied into other major events. Like most recently, I read the Thunderbolts issues for the Devil's Reign event. But this was really my first diving into a proper run of Thunderbolts. So I'll say that right up at the front as well. I don't have as much to compare to other Thunderbolt series. I'll really just be talking about it based on just this as a standalone book. But first, a little bit more about the build. This is the standard cover for the Omnibus edition. I'll try to throw up a quick thumbnail for the direct market cover you can also order for this collection. Both really striking covers, both predominantly red and white. I really like that, some black of course. Really good looking book. I think it's designed really well. I like the cover art. The artist that also does the cover for the issues inside I think is also absolutely commendable as well. The side of the omnibus is predominantly white. We have a little bit of a crosshair, the Marvel logo, of course, and at the bottom of the standard cover, we do have an image of Red Hulk. I think this does look really clean on the bookcase as well. It is a bit different than the other Thunderbolts omnibuses, though, based on what I've seen prior. And the back cover, predominantly red. We got a great little image of the team lifted from the collection. A little bit of a blurb about it, what it collects, pricing information, kind of your standard stuff. We do have a parental advisory. That's primarily for violence, I would say, blood, things like that. So please be advised there. But overall, I think this back cover looks quite good as well. Overall, a really solid dust jacket design, I felt. Okay, and now one more minute to examine the dust jacket in full. I'll go ahead and show you the interior flaps this time. I'll spread it out as well so you can see the entire dust jacket at a glance. Again, this is the standard edition cover, so the direct market will be a little bit different. The front cover will be altered. I think the image on the spine down below also might be altered. Not totally clear on that. But this is really your dust jacket for this Thunderbolts Red Omnibus. And like I said, I'm a really big fan of the dust jacket. As we transition though to the under the dust jacket print on the hardback book itself, I will say this is where I felt like it was a little bit lazy. It's mostly a red book with some stylized bullet holes shot through it, and the Thunderbolts Red kind of logo on it. It is a wraparound, I guess, but it really does feel like they cut corners a little bit. I would have much rather seen a print or maybe a fight scene from the book just to kind of jazz it up a little bit. I guess it is kind of cool to see the weathered kind of bullet holes look across it, but I do feel like they could have maybe done a little bit more under the dust jacket. And now that we've properly examined the exteriors, I will go ahead and transition to a look at that binding. So as I said, it is a sewn binding like so many other Marvel Omnibus editions, and at under 800 pages, I felt like this really laid open quite well. There was a little bit of an eye for me. I really had no issues with the binding, maybe a little bit of gutter loss, but nothing too critical. Pretty standard for these Omnibus collections from Marvel. Like I said, one read through, and this laid down super nice. Okay, and with all that done, we can jump into the book proper for this overview. I will try to do light to no spoilers, but I'll try to set up the collection for you as well as give you an idea of what to expect. Opening up the omnibus, we have the title page, the publication information. We do have a full kind of creator listing, who wrote and illustrated the collection, which is really nice. Unfortunately, we do not have a table of contents, which is not uncommon with modern Marvel omnibus editions. To that end, we also don't really have page numbers in this collection, so you'll have to just kind of keep track of where you are. We do have the covers before each of the issues, though, which is nice. You can kind of bookmark where you're at. Another thing to note, we don't have any kind of collection introduction. We don't have any kind of afterword kind of things. There are a few extras, which I'll get to at the back, but there's not a lot said or written about the collection in the collection, if that makes any sense. We're really off to issue 1, and it's kind of the establishing or the recruitment for this Thunderbolts team. One thing I'll also note is that this series is not titled Thunderbolts Red, and in fact, other than referencing their uniform a little bit of all kind of being that color, they don't really bring that up much in the arc. I think that they called this omnibus Thunderbolts Red to kind of help remind people of the era this was, but this is really just the Thunderbolts 2012 run. It is led by Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk, and the basic team when it's recruited in that first issue are Agent Venom, Flash Thompson, Elektra, the Punisher, and of course Deadpool. There are a couple other people on this character listing and roster that kind of shuffle in and out of the team, but this is your core team for most of the book, and all of them kind of have a red facet to their costume. Agent Venom and Punisher less so, but they have a red skull on the Punisher for this, and Venom changes his color a little bit to be red and black. So everyone kind of has that red motif and uniform for their missions, and essentially it is Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk, kind of bullying them to do these sort of mercenary-like missions for him to clean up, to really stop really evil people, and they're able to use lethal force. This is a super kind of rogue black ops kind of group, so there is a bit of violence throughout this as well. I will say that first couple sequences of arcs in this book are written by Daniel Way. Then we transition to the Charles Soule run, which is right in the middle of this omnibus, before ending with Ben Acker and Ben Blacker, who round out the last of the book. We also have a lot of artists on this book. We start with Steve Dillon, who I believe did the art for Preacher. It's a very recognizable art style. And then we go to Phil Noto, Gabriel Hernandez, and so many other illustrators. This really had a lot of different artists throughout. So you jumped quite frequently artist to artist. That's something to just be aware of. If you're looking for artistic consistency, we don't have that, but if you're looking for a breadth of different artists and variety, that we have in spades. I think also the voice of the characters as we switch authors, it does change a little bit. I think less the character voice and more the direction. You know, I think for me, I actually preferred the Charles Soule era of this Thunderbolts run the most, right around the middle of this book. That stretch of issues I think was my favorite. I think it had the most direction. I think it utilized the characters most effectively, and overall it just paid off a little bit better. One big portion of this book, we have them doing missions for each individual team member kind of gets a turn to have their mission done by the team. I don't know if it goes through everyone, but that's a really fun part of the book. I think that is during the Soule era, but it really covers a lot of ground. There's a lot of great missions here. There's not a ton of gigantic overarching stories, maybe one or two plot threads that really do culminate by the climax of the run, but these do feel like smaller individualized stories with a very dysfunctional team. I really will say the characters were the biggest draw for me for this book. I think all of them individually are all compelling, great characters, so having them all in one book, it feels like a recipe for success, but I'm not sure if it ever was executed perfectly for my taste. I will say the Charles Soule part of this book was my absolute favorite, and the run does read very, very quickly, which was also refreshing and fun. It was great to dabble in another modern omnibus run. At the back of the book, we do have some extras, including a variant cover art gallery, which I really enjoyed seeing. We also have some kind of outline sketched pages behind the scenes, kind of production images, which was fun. A couple more thumbnailed kind of art pieces here. But again, no real written work. You know, there's no afterword. There's nothing kind of written from the creators, which I would have liked to see at the back of this. But that being said, we still have a handful of extras, which is nice. I think the art, especially on these covers, is really fantastic. So I'm really happy to see that we got so many of them reproduced here at the back of the book. Always nice to have an omnibus with extras. You know, sometimes it's more than others. Like I said, I would have liked to see maybe some essays or things like that, but I was happy to get all of the bonus art at the back of this collection. Overall, I will say I enjoyed my reading experience here. This was, like I said, a very quick read. I read this whole omnibus in just a couple days. It's under 800 pages, and I think that it's very fast moving. Like I said, it's very action-packed and mission-oriented, and we have a really eclectic and interesting cast of characters. And I will say some directions these characters went throughout the run honestly surprised me. There were some twists and turns I didn't see coming, and I felt like it always kept me on my toes. I think there were times where the run felt a bit rudderless, which I didn't love as much, but overall, like I said, I really enjoyed reading it. It was something a bit different for me. I am curious, let me know in the comments, are you a big Thunderbolts fan? Have you read other runs? I'd love to hear what you think, maybe get some recommendations. And that's really your overview for the Thunderbolts Red Omnibus. If you want to pick up a copy, of course, check out Organicpricedbooks.com. And if you want a fuller review of this omnibus with some spoilers and some more details, you can check out my channel, The Comic Book Report, in the next week or two. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and have a good one.